For the first time, he realized how Imama must have felt when he had refused to divorce her. Perhaps she had felt her hands were tied, the way he felt now. Sitting there, he could, for the first time, imagine Imama's helplessness, fear, and pain. He had lied to her about Jalal and Sar's marriage, and he still remembered the heartbroken expression on her face. He actually enjoyed seeing her in distress. She had cried almost all the way from Islamabad to Lahore that night, and it had amused him. Now he could appreciate her mental and emotional state. That dark night, traveling in that car, she might not have been able to see ahead or behind her. The only refuge for which she had left home was Jalal Ansar's house. But Salar would not let her go there. At that hour of night, in that pervading darkness, he could feel Imama's fear and forebodings which had wrenched her heart. "I'm sorry indeed. I am sorry. But what can I do? If I see her again, I'll apologize to her. I'll help her as far as I can. But now, at this time, I can't do anything. If I have ever done any good, God, get me out of this misery. Oh God, please, please, please." With tears streaming, he tried to recall the good deeds that he had done. It occurred to him for the first time that till now he had not done any good in his life. No good deed that he could present before God and, in return, ask him for his release. He was gripped by another fear. He had never given in charity, as he did not believe in it. He did tip in hotels and restaurants, but never gave any alms to a beggar. At school or college, when funds were collected for various causes, he would neither collect nor donate. "I don't believe in charity," he would coldly expound. "I don't have spare cash to throw about." He had continued with this attitude in New Haven also. This niggardliness was not just limited to charity. He did not believe in helping out anybody. He could not recall any instance where he might have helped someone. He had only helped Imama, but after what he had done to her, he could not call it a good deed. He also did not pray regularly. Perhaps as a child, he might have gone a few times for Eid prayers with Sikandar, but even that was more ritual than worship. He remembered the night in New Haven when he had absconded midway from the Isha prayer, and he also remembered the $50 he had given to the hooker. Probably that was the one instance when he had felt pity for someone. He tried hard to recall any good that he might have done, but in vain. And then he was reminded of his misdeeds. What had he not done? His tears and supplications immediately stopped. The slate was clean. If he had died in that state, he would not have been dealt with unfairly. If, at the age of 22, with an IQ level of 150 plus, a photographic memory, and after thinking for several hours, a person is unable to recall even one good deed that he had done, then how could he expect God to bail him out of his predicament? What is next to ecstasy? He had said whilst taking cocaine in his teens. Ask his friend who was also imbibing it. More ecstasy, he had said. Then taking some more, he turned to look at Salar. There is no end to ecstasy. It is preceded by pleasure and followed by more ecstasy. He went on in his stupor, but Salar was not convinced. No, it does end. What happens when it ends? When it really ends? His friend looked at him strangely. You know it yourself, don't you? You've been through it off and on. Salar, instead of replying, again started taking cocaine. The twine biting into the flesh of his wrists was now speaking pain. What is next to pain? He had asked Imama Hashim jeeringly that night. Nothingness. A rope-like thing had dropped on his body. It slithered over his head, face, down his neck, chest, stomach, and then slid away swiftly. Salar choked his scream as his body shook. It was a snake that had slithered off him without biting him. His body was soaked wet with sweat and shivering like a fever-ridden patient. Nothingness. The voice was clear. And what is next to nothingness? The response was a sarcastic, contemptuous smile. Hell. She had said the same thing. He had been there, tied up, for the last 8 hours in that desolate, dark, and terrifying solitude. He had been shouting for help with all his might for an hour, and his throat had gone hoarse, unable to speak another word. He was suspended between nothingness and hell. Perhaps he was about to enter nothingness and was about to reach hell. Don't you feel afraid to ask what would come after hell? What can come after hell? After a person dies, condemned in sentence, what remains of him that you are so keen to know? Salar looked around himself with terrified eyes. What was that place? His grave or hell, or a glimpse of it in this life? Hunger, thirst, utter helplessness, crawling insects whom he could not stop from biting him, almost paralyzed hands and feet, wounds on his back and wrists getting worse by the moment. Whether it was fear or terror, but he had begun screaming like a madman. His screams were renting the air, hysterical and frightening screams, apparently without purpose. He had never felt such fear in his life, never. He began to see demons and apparitions around him. He felt that a blood vessel in his brain might burst, or he might have a nervous breakdown. Then his screams slowly subsided, and his throat was completely choked. He heard strange, muffled sounds. He was sure that he was dying. His heart was failing, or else he was losing his mental balance. And suddenly then, at that moment, the twine tying his wrists at the back of the tree loosened. His faltering senses seemed to jolt back to life. Biting his lower lip, he moved his hands. The twine began to loosen further. Perhaps it had broken due to the constant friction with the tree trunk. He moved his hands a little more and realized that he was free of the trunk. Unbelieving, he straightened his arms. Waves of pain shot through them. Have I been saved? He wondered uncertainly at the outlines of his arms and hands in the darkness. Why? What for? His mind was going numb. He removed from his neck the strip of cloth that had first been tied across his mouth. The movements made him groan as his arms hurt very badly, so badly that he felt he might not be able to use them again. His legs were also going numb. He tried to stand up but fell to the ground. A whimper escaped him. He tried to stand up again with the help of his hands and knees, and this time he succeeded. The two boys had taken his joggers and his watch as well. His socks were lying somewhere around. He could have felt around for them in the dark, but he would have had to use his arms and hands. He was incapable of doing this, neither physically or mentally. He only wanted to get out of there at any cost. Stumbling through the dark, he somehow got through the bushes, bruised and scratched till he reached the road where the boys had accosted him. He walked down barefoot. The pebbles and stones hurt his feet, but this was nothing compared to the physical and mental ordeal he had been through. He did not know what time it was, but he was aware that more than half the night was over. He did not know how much time it took him to walk down or how he did it. He only knew that he had wept loudly all the way. He did not bother to look at the state he was in, even in the light on the roads of Islamabad. He did not stop, nor did he ask for help. Crying, he stumbled along on the footpath. A police patrol car saw him first and stopped near him. The constables got down in front of him and stopped him. For the first time he came into his senses, but he could not stop his tears. They questioned him, but what could he say? Within the next 15 minutes, he was in a hospital where he was provided first aid. They were asking him his home address, but his throat was choked. He was unable to tell them anything. With a swollen hand, he scribbled his home phone number and address. How much longer is he to be kept here? Not long. As soon as he regains consciousness, we'll check him up again and discharge him. His injuries are not grave. He only needs complete rest at home. His mind was moving from the unconscious to the conscious state. The meaningless sounds were becoming comprehensible. He was beginning to recognize the voices. One voice was that of Sikandar Usman. The other voice must have been of some doctor. Salar very slowly opened his eyes. He was at once blinded by the light. The room was very brightly lit.